Hello, welcome to my presentation that I'm recording called New Year's NPSP Resolutions. I prepared this in January 2019 for the Austin Nonprofit User Group. You can reach me at the email address there, at Mighty Force on Twitter, or you can read my blog at mightyforce.org. I do run Street Youth Ministry. We serve homeless young adults in Austin, and we just began services expanding to the south of our city as well this year. I was a high-tech engineer for 25 years. I've been doing nonprofit since 2008, and Rosie is sitting over here watching me record this. She's my companion animal and our counseling dog since 2009. So my first resolution that I would encourage everyone to adopt for 2019 is get someone to Lightning. As someone I respect very much, Shell Black, recently said, Salesforce Classic is dead. Get over it. I'm telling you that being on Classic is a big competitive disadvantage for your organization. You need to tell your bosses this if you aren't already using Lightning. There's lots of resources to help you transition out there. Lightning Champions are perhaps one of the best. You have your Lightning Readiness Report, which is a fantastic report. There's Trailhead, and there is a Shell Black video on making a realistic plan to transition. With all of those resources out there on transition, I sometimes like to add some ideas for how to get started. I don't see many people talking about these strategies. First of all, I think the easiest transition strategy for getting started is that you, as the admin, start using it. If you have co-admins, commit to each other as an accountability group that you will use Lightning effective immediately. Every time you switch back to Classic, make yourself switch immediately back to Lightning. Super users make good people to transition to Lightning early. I'm a big fan of a strategy I rarely hear talked about, which is put all new users in Lightning. They don't know what they're missing, and I think it's a big disservice to your new users to teach them Classic and then make them transition to Lightning. Try to find one department that can do all its business in Lightning and move them as a whole. These are just some strategies, but please join me in the commitment to get someone to Lightning this year. Clean data. We all hear about it, but it's just super important to you being successful with a nonprofit success pack. Duplicate management is the biggest word you'll hear about all the time. I divided kind of my activities into 3 levels. The basic level that I do, I have added a tool that gives me notification when we have a duplicate. Dupe Catcher still works. There is another free tool that I don't have personal experience with that I'm told still works well. Dupe Catcher is very simple. It's quite limited, and yet it catches 6 to 8 duplicates in my organization every week and gives me a task to merge them. You also need a merge standard. You need to adopt some type of standard. The standard that I like best is they're the same contact if 2 points of contact match. So if emails match and phone numbers match, or 2 emails match, or email and address match, you can assume they are the same contact and merge. Obviously, you don't want to merge people who are purposely sharing the same email, but without a 2 point of contact match, we don't merge, and instead we assign it to a staff member who seems to know the contacts best and ask them to reach out and confirm if it's a duplicate. An intermediate level action to take is to enable Salesforce native duplicate management. This gets you a couple things. First, you'll actually start getting notifications in the Lightning page that there might be a duplicate for something. So this lets your users begin to proactively notice that there are duplicates. I think it is probably a best practice to never let your users merge duplicates unless you have specifically trained some super user. So probably you want some form somewhere that says, please merge these duplicates for me, and they submit on that form and you merge it for them. But you can set up Salesforce to help them notice that there are duplicates. Once you've set up native duplicate management, it will also likely challenge them when they're creating a duplicate to say, I think there might be a record here. Are you sure you want to create that? And you will get reportable objects created whenever Salesforce decides there are duplicates, and you can report on those. So once a month, I look at my report, and it creates little duplicate matching groups. And if there's only one name in the matching group, that means I already took care of it with my daily dupe catcher activities or just ordinary business. But if there are multiple contacts in that potential duplicate group, then I look at them and try to figure out what's going on. The difference between the basic level here and the intermediate level can be something like the basic level is only checking for matches when you touch a contact, but the intermediate level, the native Salesforce, is looking all the time across your entire database, perhaps in batches at night or something like that. Advanced level, in the nonprofit world, CRM Fusion is or was the darling of duplicate management. I have used it for years and love it, but it became more expensive for most nonprofits recently, and a lot of people are unable to continue using it. Apsona is a new entrant in this space. They are working to bring affordable duplicate management to nonprofits. It's not quite the same as CRM Fusion yet, but it's early days. I would do this advanced level probably quarterly. I said monthly here, but that's really not true. I would do it maybe quarterly. So you've got to keep your leads and accounts and contacts clean. And if you have anything else that you are likely to be duplicating, you can set up the intermediate and advanced tools to work on that as well. Clean data goes beyond just duplicate management. Within a single record, you can still have dirty data. I'm going to focus here on the email fields. NPSP has 3 different fields that it provides: personal email, work email, and alternate email, as well as a pick list that, we say it's the preferred email, but what it really is doing is it's saying one of those emails is going to be revealed to the rest of Salesforce, because the rest of Salesforce has just one field called email. So NPSP exposes whichever email you prefer to the rest of the system, and that's the email that Salesforce is going to use for all its native functions, and most all of the add-on tools are going to use that particular email. So you've got 3 emails, and a lot can go wrong. At the basic level, I would encourage you to establish with all your users and establish a policy that says bouncing emails are deleted. If you're worried about not knowing what an email address used to be, turn on the email field history tracking before you start deleting emails. But a bouncing email is not going to do you any good. If you can't fix it, delete it. That will at least tell you the truth that you no longer have a way to reach out to that person by email. And if that bothers someone, you can do some enrichment and try to find an email address for them. At the intermediate level, since we have 3 email fields, it can get really confusing. So I am recommending that you don't allow duplication between those 3 fields. Here's something I do in my own organization. I have 3 custom fields that I've added to contacts that simply is a checkbox that becomes asserted if 2 emails are the same on the same contact. So there's 3 fields that I need to compare all 3 fields. I need to compare the email from work and home, the email from home and alternate, and the email from work and alternate. And if any of those are checked, I consider it an error. And once a month, I get a report that shows all the contacts with that type of error. and I clean that up by removing the duplicates. They're just not going to help me. In particular, when somebody says, oh, please change my email, one of your users is very likely to change one of those but not notice the others. And so now you're not giving your constituent good service. At the more advanced level, we have 3 email fields, and if you're not very consistent about how you use those, it can get really confusing. Personal, work, and alternate. Here's what we do. We put work emails in the work email. And if we don't know if it's work, based on the way it ends, its domain, then we put it in personal. We put all educational or student emails into the alternate email field, particularly because they're going to be temporary, and we don't want to kid ourselves. We don't have a long-term, stable, permanent email for this person's personal correspondence. What we have is a temporary student ID, student email, and they are likely to be expired or stop working. Of course, we do put paid staff members of educational organizations. You put that in their work domain. So you can pretty easily write yourself some reports that detect a personal domain in the work email. Turns out there's only about 22 personal domains in use in the United States. And so you can actually write a simple report flagging work emails that contain the personal domains. And particularly when the personal domain is empty, you can very easily, with an edit, transform, load tool, move that to the personal domain, and now that's cleaned up. We move educational emails to the alternate if they're in the wrong place. This lets us do one more type of cleanliness checking. If we have a real work domain and we don't have an affiliation for the person, we probably aren't recording the data as fully as we want to. And so we flag that also at the end of the month and clean that up. So those are just some ideas for how you can begin to keep your email fields more clean. This results in less bouncing, less spam ratings for the email that you send out with your email programs. It's more likely that your transactional emails that you send out from Salesforce are going to reach your constituent, and it's just going to give you a much better. Experience for your users and your constituents. All right, let's move on to another type of data cleanliness. This is my dear friend, the phone number field. I never cared too much about this, but I do now, and here's why. If you haven't heard the word texting or SMS from your boss or your constituents, you are about to. At least at this moment, email is less popular with constituents, and texting is more popular with constituents. And so you are probably going to be asked to evaluate how rapidly and how easily you could include texting into the Salesforce platform. And in order to do that, of course, you have to know the difference between a mobile number and a non-mobile number. Just as a review, Salesforce Core has 4 different phone number fields: phone, other phone, home phone, and assistant phone. And probably mobile phone. I confess I left that one off of the list here. So there's 5. NPSP added 2 more: work phone and household, and it lets us choose a preferred one with amongst home, mobile, or work, which is placed into the phone number field. I know this is confusing, but that's the way it is. So there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 phone number fields running around in the system. At the basic level, I encourage you to sit down with your stakeholders and set a standard and detect, in particular, I'm talking about standard maybe for the format of them. If you are a US only organization, then perhaps you can decide that they will always be formatted as a 10-digit phone number with parentheses, spaces, and dashes. or perhaps you will decide they are always formatted as a 10-digit phone number without any parentheses, spaces, or dashes. If you're an international organization, then you may want to tie country and phone number format together for validation or error detection at least. But set a standard so that at least people know how to get it right and begin to use monthly reports to show how bad or good a situation you have. At the intermediate level, you have this whole duplicate issue again. Clean up duplication. If you've got their mobile number in all their phone number fields, that's probably not helping you any. It's probably just belongs in the mobile number. If a person has a work office phone that's wired, maybe that needs to be in their work number and not their mobile number. Likewise, personal. So if you can know this information, you should begin to use the right one and begin to avoid duplication. You may need to use an enhancement service in order to determine if phone numbers are mobile. I am looking at using Twilio for enhancement in order to determine if phone numbers are mobile or wired. For a very small pay-as-you-go fee, they can tell you whether a number is mobile or not. So it's pretty important to keep your phone numbers clean, especially if you anticipate or want to transition into the world of text messaging. Fun fact, this can be very confusing for you and your users. And in particular, if you start using integrations or automations, phone number can be very confusing. It actually is a data type, phone number data type. I've given a link there. You can read about it. But here's a fun fact. Salesforce doesn't present the truth about the data that's in your phone number field. The number that's in your field is, represented as a database value, and it's sort of ASCII text, and it is what you type in. What you type in gets saved. But when it brings it back for display on the screen, both classic and Lightning and mobile attempt to format it. And so if you are a US-based company and it sees a 10-digit number, it's going to format it with parentheses and dashes on your screen. That does not mean parentheses and dashes are stored in your database. This can drive you crazy if you are trying to clean up your data. This can also drive you crazy if you're trying to find matches with Apex, or if you're trying to find matches with an external function of some sort or an external integration. And then finally, a word of caution about the search bar in Lightning. Since it's powered by Einstein, it's capable of doing some intelligent searching. And so you will find that it will return more matches than just the exact match when you're searching for phone numbers. This is great, but again, if you're using search as maybe a diagnostic tool to find out why your integration isn't working, you might be very frustrated. So I'm just beginning this type of cleanliness in my own org, but I'm suggesting it's a really good practice for everyone to think about. Adopt a standard for what's right, write reports to detect what isn't right, and begin the process of cleaning them up over time, because you're going to need this rich, wonderful way of reaching out to users by voice and by text. Addresses. Addresses are another thing. Addresses are a standalone object in NPSP3. It's a wonderful functionality. I have enabled it for my organizational accounts as well. I think it's very good. At the basic level, I highly encourage you to teach your users to use the Google search function when they're editing addresses. Let me show you what I mean. This is my own account page, contact page in my org, my live org. And I'm going to, oh, I'm sorry, I hit the wrong button. I'm going to, this isn't really how we access data, but just for the sake of showing you what I'm talking about, I'm going to edit it. And I'm going to scroll down to where the address section is. This is, again, not actually a good user experience because this is not how we use our database. But in if I scroll down here far enough, we will, oh, I'm sorry, I went past it. We will find notice the phone numbers there. I have adopted the idea that we're going to store them with parentheses, space, and dashes. That's actually how it's stored. Here is the address section, and there are the different address fields, that you can fill in. But here's this little button that's in Lightning that says search addresses. Train your users to do this, and then when they type in, I'm going to type in some address I've never typed in before. When they type in 6800, it will begin showing them full and complete addresses that are near them for that address. And so if I wanted to change it to 6800 Shoal Creek Boulevard, I can select that and it will have filled in all of the address fields. And of course, if it were an apartment, I could, now add the apartment number to it, apartment 2. And now I could save, and I have a bona fide good address in there without any issues. So let me cancel out of that now. So I think that's the most basic thing you do. It kind of prevents dirty data from the beginning. At an intermediate level, I really highly encourage using an address verification service. I use Smarty Streets. A certain number of them are free per month, and they may, if you contact them, donate more. If you need, for example, to bulk check all of your addresses in order to start fresh for the year, they probably could be approached to accommodate you on that as a nonprofit. And then finally, at advanced level, you certainly can configure Google. Google API and services are more complex to set up, but it is free up to a certain point. On the advanced level, you may also want to take a look at how the address objects are being stored and created. When you make a minor modification or a major modification, the old address object is still saved, which many of us like, but that also means that you're accumulating a lot of old addresses for address tweaks that you may be making. It's possible that at some point you want to archive or delete those old addresses periodically. So anyway, so there's some things to do, and just sort of an overview. When it comes to clean data and data quality, the basic thing that you can do is begin to set standards for what's required, what's needed. It may be level dependent. For a donor, we always collect these types of information, no matter what level they are. For a major donor, we also collect these additional informations. For a volunteer, we collect certain types of information, but set some standards. And then you can begin to guide the user to it. You can set up in Lightning. This is a form that's driven off of a quick action. And if I edit anything in this, it's going to open up all the items on my quick action, but I can enforce that some of these are required and some of them are optional. And it's because they're a donor. I have another form down here that's volunteer information that has much the same and yet different fields that are required or requested for volunteers. And what's more to the point, I can actually make these in Lightning, these are conditional elements. So this donor information is only showing up if I have a donation entered against my account. And the volunteer information is only showing up if I have ever, in fact, been a volunteer. So you can begin to guide users that way. Next tip, that was the last tip in the data quality area, regular backups. We've got to be doing them. I hope you're all setting up weekly native data exports. Be sure to reschedule it every week. Here's a tip that's very important. If you change your database in any way by adding a custom field or adding an object, that is not included in your scheduled exports until you go reschedule it. So really your weekly routine needs to be get the email that tells you your backup is ready to be downloaded. Download each of the files. I'm up to 5 different files that are part of my backup. download them all, and then reschedule the backup, and just double check that it says all fields. If you've changed your database by adding fields or objects, it won't say that, and you'll need to check that export all fields box again, and then you'll have everything. Now, it's very hard to restore data from this file, but you need to have it just in case. At the intermediate level, before you start messing with data, for example, cleaning up all your contact emails, you might want to export all of your contacts into a file by just doing a download immediately from the export function, and save that just in case you make a mistake. Then you would easily be able to restore it. And at an advanced level, there are automatic real-time backup services. I live in Austin. Spanning is one of them, and they're in Austin. They appear to be very nice, very good, affordable for nonprofits. If you're having problems with too much data in your organization, I think there is a nice way to use them as sort of an archiving tool. If you were to identify lists of data that are safe to delete because you think you're never going to need it again, you could, and you were using the backup, you could note what date you deleted them all and delete it all, and then you can restore just the data that's needed again should a donor, for example, reactivate or a volunteer come back or whatever. So be thinking about your backup strategy for this year and improving it. Users. At the basic level, I encourage everyone, please don't reuse accounts. Suspend and create new users every time. It doesn't save you licenses. It doesn't save you any real work that's worth it. And all it does is confuse the new users that you assign it to, confuse you when you're wondering, what on earth is that old record doing created by so-and-so, until you remember, oh yeah, I reused the user on them. So please don't do that. At the intermediate level, it's a great time of year to suspend users who haven't logged in many months. They'll let you know if they need to relog in, because it'll tell them that they've been suspended. You can always reactivate without any issues at all. There might be a few gotchas in there, but it's pretty rare, and you'll be a hero because you'll be saving your organization licenses. At the advanced level, you should set up an integration user and move all your integrations to that. Heaven forbid your organization need to change admins if you run all the integrations through the sole admin account. I admit I have this bad practice. I'm committed to getting better. I'm just not sure when yet. We use all of our licenses, so I would need to purchase one more license, but Salesforce has dropped the cost of that additional license to a very affordable level. So I know that I should be doing this because I get confused. I wonder sometimes now, why on earth did I make that change when in fact it was an integration that caused the change? So it's really worth the extra license if you need to buy one in order to have less wasted time when you're debugging issues. All right, NPSP 2018 features, custom rollups. I haven't adopted it yet because it had some problems initially, to be honest with you, but they have, I believe, really wrung out the issues. If you're new, you've been using it, and I think you love it. If you have a rollup challenge, I think it's time to go for custom rollups now. I listed a video there that's really good to watch. I listed several examples of things that you might want to do. There is now a recipe list on the Knowledge Power of Us Hub knowledge articles that give custom NPSP recipes for rollups. It's just really time for this feature, and it's a great thing. Soft credits, automatic soft credits in particular. You can now, I haven't adopted this either, but I think I probably will. There are those accounts that I have that send us money. They're usually organizational accounts, and I want to soft credit a number of people, usually board members, and I have to remember to do that and remember to add all the board members. And now NPSP has a feature that once you enable it, will automatically assign those soft credits based on the affiliation they have. So people have an affiliation to the organization. When that organization makes a donation, if the right things are set up on that affiliation, they will automatically receive soft credit. And I think that's wonderful. Likewise, if you have people who are fundraising, um, if they identify who they're fundraising to, when those individuals make donations, an automatic soft credit can be given to the fundraiser. So this is great for table captains or team leaders, or various things like that. Board give and get might be more easily modeled this way. So this is a feature that I think is very solid, and I highly recommend enabling it and seeing if you can make use of it. The NPSP data import tool really came out in 2017, but I think it is by far the best way to import data uh, into Salesforce if you're using the nonprofit success pack. It was created in order to bring data in bulk, but I actually find that I'm better off explaining to people how to add data into Salesforce if it's not timely as an NPSP data import record, and then let a bulk process go through and add the records at night, because we can do that with search and matching. So give this a try. Your imports are reportable. You can batch schedule them every night. They will do matching against your database. There are some limits, and it doesn't import everything. It is a little bit extensible. I've managed to extend it to do cases, and I'm considering extending it to do volunteer hours next. But this is a great tool. User training is a great story in 2018. There are 36 community-created short how-to videos online now on a YouTube channel. You should subscribe to this YouTube channel now, NPSP Videography channel. They're task-oriented, they're short, they're mostly for end users, and they are lightning, and they are just outstanding. Really, really proud of the community-driven videography channel. Use it and spread the word. So I've reached the end of my tips. So what are the coolest things that I'm doing right now? While we're talking about new things, in 2019, the most exciting thing by far that I know about from NPSP is going to be the batch gift entry tool. It's a screen-friendly way to enter in donations, checks, PayPals, etc., using the database to help you avoid duplication, and no mouse clicking and scrolling around from multiple pages, just one page, your keyboard and you entering in the data that you need. It's in sandboxes now, and will roll out Safe Harbor in February. So I'm very excited about that. All right. So what are some of the coolest things I'm doing now? I don't know that I recommend doing this, but this is our active page layout for context, and it does not have any dependency back to Classic at all. Everything you see here is a Lightning component. It's metadata driven. It does not rely on the page layout from Classic at all. There's no related list here. There's no detailed list here. Almost every element here is conditional upon some characteristic of the contact itself. We just have one contact record type. So we just have one page layout, but everything is conditional. So this donor statement is there only if I'm a donor. This donor information is a related record form using the hack of this record to display just the fields that we're most interested in if somebody is a donor. This volunteer banner is only there if you're a volunteer, and the volunteer information is there. And then we have some contact options that are kind of at the bottom of all contacts. for deceased, don't call, don't contact, SMS opt out, email opt out, etc. At the top, we're using share and pick to allow users to interactively from their phone or from their desktop to upload a picture. So we can see that now. We've got a quick button here to add an affiliation. We're showing the affiliations, and this is not the usual related list. This is all metadata driven, does not rely on the classic page layout. Add a relationship and relationships, volunteer hours, volunteer stats. And most of these things are only conditional if they're relevant. In-kind giving, donations, household donor stats. So no longer do we have it's a fairly crowded page layout, admittedly, but no longer do we have useless fields that you have to scroll past. These are fields that are relevant. So the first column we're using for data entry, the middle column we're using for sort of output, feedback, related records. And the third column is all about activity and communication. We've enabled topics, so we're adding tags to our contacts so that we can find them easily. Here's a dynamic volunteer history chart. It's only there if you're a volunteer. Here's Twilio. Oh, I have an error. My bad. But we're adding Twilio SMS to be able to communicate in real time to users. Here's the email messages that we can send to people in real time and the history, as well as we're beginning to experiment with guided action. So really excited about this. I don't know that I recommend that everyone do it. I did it as an experiment to see if I could design useful page layouts without any reference to the old classic dependencies. I think we're going to see Lightning Fields become available more and more as summer and winter 2019 arrive. Spring and summer 2019 arrive, sorry. So I don't know that I recommend you doing this right away, but I have really enjoyed doing it. If you need it, Lightning is very capable of it. Leverage your related list components. If you have really busy fields like I do, you may want to use accordion layout element or tab layout element. Use the related record component and set the record that it's related to itself in order to display subsets of fields and edit subsets of fields. Lots of conditional display filters, lots of rich text conditional advice, and you can put icons in there, you can put rich text, you can put bold colors, etc. So really experiment with this. Twilio for Salesforce, I mentioned it. It's free to low cost for nonprofits. Live texting to the contact, lead, or case. Scheduled batch messages to campaigns. It manages opt-in and opt-out for you. You can do full automation of sending and receiving text messages from Process Builder, Flow, Apex. There is a team inbox. I am using the beta. And Safe Harbor, they have submitted it to the App Exchange and expect to be approved very soon. So I would recommend waiting for the App Exchange version rather than going through the beta. But it's affordable. It wasn't too difficult for me to set up, and I don't program. I'm not a web middleware programmer. The instructions to set it up were 8 or 10 steps long, but it was all cut and paste type of work. It wasn't, didn't involve programming. I didn't understand everything I was cutting and pasting, but they really made it easy and for me to do. So that's Salesforce for Twilio. I'm sorry, Twilio for Salesforce. Integrations. I am experimenting with an awful lot of automations and integrations now at low cost and no code. So my favorite things at this point are to get external information into a Google spreadsheet, whether that's Google Forms or Twilio messages or web forms. I'm pushing all my data into rows of different spreadsheets, and then I'm using Zapier to manipulate those spreadsheets and bring them into Salesforce records if I have to have the data right away. And that takes place in 15 minutes or less for me. Or use Zapier to take them from spreadsheets into the NPSP data import tool if I'd rather let NPSP take care of the complexities. If I do it myself, using Zapier to create Salesforce records, I have to do whatever duplicate checking I want to do, and that takes some extra steps and adds extra complexity to my simple little zaps. Whereas if I let NPSP data import tool handle the matching and the record linking, it's really very simple to do my zap. So those are kind of two steps: getting data from the user into a spreadsheet, from the spreadsheet into Salesforce, and then getting data out. I am really enjoying using Google Sheets. There are two ways to connect Google Sheets to your Salesforce instance. There actually now is a Google Salesforce partner-based widget that you can add that is free and brings SOQL straight to your Google spreadsheet. If you can write SOQL, you can pull in data for free now because of the Google Salesforce partnership. However, that happened after I was already using a tool called G-Connector, which is free for nonprofits that are small at least. And you can pull in anything that's on a report or write SOQL into your Google spreadsheet. And then I bring that over to graphic programs. I'm currently using Google Charts to make real-time dynamic graphs that are shown on our website. My more capable friends tell me that I need to apply for a free Tableau license and embed Tableau graphics onto my website because I would be much happier with the format and prettiness of it. I have also discovered a new way to use the data in Salesforce on a Google form. By first creating a Salesforce query, either I'm using G-Connector to get data into Google Sheets. One of the advantages of G-Connector is you can schedule that the export takes place regularly. So you can schedule it every 15 minutes, every hour, or once a day, or once every few days. So if you had something that was very live-ish, such as a volunteer check-in, for example, you might schedule an export every hour. And so you'd have all the names of people who are expected to arrive today in your spreadsheet, and using a Google form add-on called Form Ranger, and there are a few others, you can actually have dynamic pick lists, drop-down pick lists, multi-pick lists that are based on the spreadsheet content. So you can actually now have a Google form that's live for your staff or a volunteer to self-service, and they can choose their own name based on the fact that they're in Salesforce and registered today, and that can go back and change a spreadsheet. And so then from the spreadsheet, you can go and mark them as, for example, checked in. And there are lots of applications of using that type of integration. So this is some of the coolest things I'm doing right now for 2019 and wanted to share. So that's my presentation, and I thank you. I can't wait to hear the cool things you are doing and your resolutions for using the NPSP better. In summary, NPSP is getting better. It did get better in 2018. There are more things coming in 2019, but I personally think the big story is that if you want to leverage NPSP really strongly, in 2019, what you need to do is make sure you're using all of the Salesforce features that NPSP is built on. So that means leveraging leads, leveraging cases, leveraging volunteers for Salesforce, leveraging campaigns, leveraging list mails, leveraging the add-on tools for text messaging, leveraging the pre-built tools for impact recording or creating your own. But it's I think 2019 is really about expanding the footprint that Salesforce has in your organization because you use NPSP. So I look forward to hearing what you do, and Happy New Year.